I used to think the hardest thing in life was losing someone you loved. I was wrong. The hardest thing is discovering that someone you loved was never really loving you back. My name is Elena, and until the week everything exploded, I thought my family was complicated but normal. We argued. We made up. We celebrated birthdays together. We complained about each other behind closed doors and defended each other in public. At least, that was what I believed. My younger sister, Marissa, had always been the dramatic one. She was beautiful, charming, and incredibly good at making people feel sorry for her. Whenever something went wrong in her life, somehow I became responsible. If she lost a job, I should have helped her find another. If she broke up with someone, I should have been there every night. If she made a bad financial decision, I should have opened my wallet. And whenever I refused, she had the same sentence ready. You're my sister. What else am I supposed to do? For years, I believed that sentence was about family. Eventually, I realized it was about control. I just didn't know how far she would take it. Until she demanded the deed to my house. My house was worth $7.27 million. It wasn't something I had inherited from our parents. It wasn't a family property. It wasn't something Marissa had contributed to. I had bought it myself. Every dollar, every mortgage payment, every renovation, every sleepless night that made it possible. And somehow, my sister decided it belonged to her. The story begins 3 months before she demanded it. At the time, Grandma was still living in her old house. Grandma Evelyn was 87, sharp as a blade, and possessed the kind of memory that could make a lawyer nervous. She remembered everything. Every birthday, every promise, every lie, especially the lies. One Sunday afternoon, I drove to her house with groceries. When I walked in, she was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea. She looked at me over her glasses. You're late. I'm 20 minutes early. You're late for something. I laughed. That doesn't even make sense. It will. That was Grandma. She never explained anything until she thought you were ready to understand. I put the groceries away. Then she said something that caught me completely off guard. Your sister has been asking about your house. My hands stopped moving. What? Your sister, Marissa. I know who you mean. She asked me whether you had a will. I slowly closed the refrigerator. Why? Grandma shrugged. Because she's Marissa. That answer should have been enough. It wasn't. What exactly did she ask? Grandma took a sip of tea. She asked whether your house was going to stay in the family. I stared at her. It's my house. I know. Did you tell her that? Grandma smiled. I told her something better. What? I told her that people who count other people's money usually don't have enough of their own. I laughed. Grandma didn't. She looked directly into my eyes. Elena, be careful. Those words stayed with me. A month later, Marissa called me. She didn't say hello. Are you really planning to keep that huge house for yourself? I was standing in my kitchen. Yes. For yourself. Yes. You don't even have children. I don't need children to own a house. She sighed dramatically. That's not what I mean. Then what do you mean? You know Mom and Dad always wanted us to have something together. That was the first lie. Our parents had never said that. Dad had spent his entire life telling us that what we earned was ours. Mom used to say, never depend on your sister. Never make your sister depend on you. Marissa continued. I just think it's selfish. I laughed. What's selfish? Having all that space. It's my space. You could let me live there. I already let you live in the guest house. Silence. Then she said. For how long? I knew then. This wasn't a request. It was a negotiation. You've been living there for 18 months. And you don't pay rent. I help around the house. You've cooked dinner twice. I've done more than that. I didn't say you haven't. She hung up. 3 days later, I received a text. Marissa, we need to talk about the house. I didn't respond. Another message arrived. Marissa, I'm serious. Still nothing. Then, Marissa, you owe me. That one made me laugh. I put my phone down. I had no idea that those 3 words would eventually become the center of a family war. The next morning, Marissa knocked on my bedroom door. She was holding a folder. What is that? Something we need to discuss. She sat down. I remained standing.
She opened the folder. Inside was a printed document. I looked at it, then looked at her. What am I looking at?
An agreement. What agreement? The house.
I almost laughed.
You've prepared paperwork for my house. I've spoken to someone. A lawyer? Yes. About my property.
She nodded.
Marissa, you can't be serious. I am.
She pushed the document toward me.
Sign the deed over to me.
I stared at her.
For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then I said,
No. She blinked.
That's it. Yes. You're not even going to hear me out. You just asked me to give you a $7.27 million house. It's not giving it to me. What is it? Paying me back. For what?
She looked offended.
For everything I've sacrificed for you.
I genuinely thought she was joking.
What sacrifices?
She began counting on her fingers.
I supported you emotionally. You lived in my guest house rent-free. I helped you when Mom died. So did I. I rearranged my life for this family. So did I. I gave up opportunities. Which ones? She froze. I waited. She finally said, You wouldn't understand.
And there it was.
The sentence people use when they don't have evidence.
I shook my head.
You're not getting my house.
Her face changed. The softness disappeared.
You're really going to do this? Yes. You're throwing your own sister out. I haven't thrown you out. You're evicting me.
No. I'm telling you that you don't own my house. She stood up.
You'll regret this.
I didn't know how prophetic that would be. That evening, my phone exploded. Family messages. Aunts.
Uncles.
Cousins.
People I hadn't spoken to in years.
How could you do this to Marissa? She's your sister. After everything she did for you? Grandma would be ashamed.
I stared at the screen.
Then Marissa posted in the family group. I never thought Elena would do this to me.
I sacrificed years of my life for her and now she's throwing me out of the only home I have. Within minutes, there were dozens of replies.
People believed her. Of course they did. Marissa had spent years building the story. She was the struggling sister. I was the successful one. She was the victim. I was the cold one. She was generous.
I was selfish. And now she had given everyone a simple story to believe. My sister was being evicted from her home.
I was the villain.
I typed a response.
Deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. Then I remembered Grandma's warning. Be careful. So I said nothing. For 2 days. Marissa kept posting. She told relatives I had threatened her. She claimed I had promised our parents that she could live there forever. She said I was trying to erase her from the family. One cousin called me.
Elena, what happened?
I told him the truth. He sounded uncomfortable. I don't know.
Marissa showed us documents. What documents? She said they prove she contributed to the property.
I almost dropped the phone. What?
She said she paid for renovations. She paid for nothing. I don't know what to believe.
Neither did I. Until Grandma called.
Come over.
I drove there immediately. When I arrived, Grandma was sitting at her desk. There were papers everywhere. She pointed to the chair. Sit. I did.
Your sister has made a mistake. What mistake? She forgot who raised her.
I frowned. What does that mean? Grandma opened a drawer. Then she pulled out a small envelope. She placed it on the table.
This belongs to you.
I opened it. Inside was an old photograph. I stared at it. My parents. Me. Marissa. And Grandma. But that wasn't what made my heart stop. In the background was our childhood house.
And on the back, in my father's handwriting, were several words. For Elena, when she is old enough to understand.
I looked at Grandma.
What is this? Proof. Proof of what? That your father knew exactly what Marissa would become.
My hands started shaking. Grandma opened another drawer. This time, she removed a thick file. Bank statements, receipts, legal documents, letters, and one document that made me sit back. A handwritten agreement signed by my parents. Grandma looked at me.
Your father wanted to protect you. From Marissa?
From everyone. I couldn't breathe.
What did he know?
Grandma's eyes hardened.
He knew your sister would eventually believe that your success belonged to her.
I looked at the photograph again.
Then I understood. Grandma hadn't given me a weapon.
She had given me a choice. I could fight publicly, or I could let the truth speak for itself.
That night, Marissa posted again. This time, she tagged me. Some people become rich and forget where they came from. Then another message. I hope everyone remembers who was there for Elena before she had anything.
I opened the family chat. 61 people were watching.
I typed, Marissa, you're right about one thing.
She immediately replied, finally. I continued,
everyone should know what happened.
She wrote,
go ahead.
So I sent one photo. Just one.
It was a photograph of Marissa standing beside my father years earlier.
Nothing unusual. Until everyone zoomed in. In her hand was an envelope. On the envelope was written,
$85,000, final payment, Elena's house.
The chat went silent. Then my uncle asked,
what is that?
I replied,
proof of the money Marissa received from Dad after she promised never to claim ownership of my property.
Marissa immediately wrote, fake. Grandma entered the chat. She sent a single message.
I took the photograph.
Nobody responded. Then Grandma sent the second image.
The signed agreement. Then the third. The bank transfer. Then the fourth. A letter from my father. The family chat exploded.
Marissa started typing. Stopped. Typed again. Deleted. Finally.
Grandma, you promised you'd never do this.
Grandma answered.
I promised your father I would protect Elena.
That was when everything changed.
One cousin left the group.
Then another. Then another.
Within minutes, people began sending private messages. I had no idea. She lied to me. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have judged you.
Then someone posted.
Marissa, did you really demand Elena's house after taking $85,000 from your father?
No answer. Another relative.
And you told us she was evicting you.
Still nothing. Then Grandma sent her final message. And this was the one nobody expected.
Marissa, pack your belongings.
Everyone stopped. She continued.
The guest house is mine.
I stared at the screen.
Grandma owned the land adjacent to my property. Years earlier, she had transferred the guest house to herself legally because my parents had worried that Marissa would eventually claim it.
Grandma had never told me.
Marissa called her immediately.
Grandma declined. She called again. Declined. Then she wrote,
you have 7 days.
Marissa responded,
you can't do this to me.
Grandma replied,
I can.
Then came the sentence that ended everything.
You confused kindness with entitlement. Within an hour, 57 relatives had cut Marissa off.
Not because I asked them to. Not because Grandma demanded it. Because they had finally seen the truth.
My sister had spent years collecting sympathy like currency. But sympathy disappears when the receipts arrive. 3 days later, Marissa came to my house.
She stood at the gate. I didn't invite her inside. She looked exhausted.
I made a mistake.
I said nothing.
I was angry.
Still nothing.
I felt like everyone was moving forward except me.
I finally spoke.
That doesn't give you the right to steal from me. I wasn't stealing. You demanded the deed.
I thought you owed me.
I owed you nothing.
She looked down. For the first time in my life, she seemed genuinely ashamed.
I don't know what to do. I wanted to say something cruel.
I had every reason. But I remembered Grandma. Revenge doesn't always mean destroying someone. Sometimes revenge is simply refusing to let them destroy you. You need to leave, I said. She nodded. Then she turned. Before she walked away, she stopped.
Do you hate me?
I thought about it. No. She looked surprised. I don't hate you, I said.
I just don't trust you anymore.
She walked away. And somehow, that hurt her more than anger would have.
The following week, the family gathered at Grandma's house.
She had called everyone together.
I expected another confrontation. Instead, Grandma walked into the living room carrying a stack of envelopes.
Everyone became quiet. She looked at us.
I am old, she said. You all think that means I'm fragile.
Nobody spoke.
It doesn't.
A few people laughed nervously. Grandma continued.
I've spent 8 to 7 years watching people reveal themselves.
She looked at Marissa. And I have learned one thing. Marissa lowered her eyes.
People don't show you who they are when they are desperate.
Grandma paused.
They show you who they are when they think nobody can stop them.
Then Grandma handed me an envelope.
This is yours. I opened it.
Inside was the original photograph. My father. My mother. Me. Marissa. Grandma. On the back, Dad had written, "Money can divide a family.
Character decides whether it survives."
I started crying. Not because of the house.
Not because of Marissa.
Because I finally understood my father's warning.
He hadn't been afraid that Marissa would take my money. He had been afraid she would convince me that protecting myself made me selfish.
Grandma looked at me.
Never apologize for protecting what you built.
I nodded.
Then she turned toward Marissa. And never demand payment for sacrifices nobody asked you to make.
Marissa began crying.
For once, nobody rushed to comfort her.
That was the merciless part. Not cruelty, not punishment, just consequences. The house stayed mine. The guest house was emptied.
Marissa eventually moved into a small apartment across town.
She found a job. She started paying her own bills.
And slowly, something unexpected happened. She began rebuilding her life without using me as a foundation. Months later, she sent me a letter.
Not a text. A real letter. She apologized.
She admitted she had convinced herself that my success meant I had somehow taken something from her.
She admitted she had lied to the family. And she admitted the worst part. She had never truly wanted my house. She wanted proof that she mattered as much as I did. I read the letter twice. Then I put it away. I didn't forgive her immediately. Forgiveness isn't a switch. It's a process.
And sometimes loving someone means accepting that you can love them from a distance. A year later, Grandma passed away peacefully in her sleep. At her funeral, 58 relatives stood together.
Marissa stood at the back. She didn't ask for anything. She didn't make herself the victim. She simply stood there.
After the service, she approached me. I miss her. So do I.
She nodded. Then she smiled sadly. She was terrifying.
I laughed through my tears. She was. Marissa looked toward the grave. She knew everything, didn't she? Almost everything. She knew what I was doing before I did.
I smiled.
That sounds like Grandma.
We stood there in silence. Then Marissa said something I'll never forget.
She didn't destroy me.
I looked at her.
She saved me.
I didn't answer. Because maybe that was Grandma's final revenge. She didn't ruin Marissa.
She removed the excuses that allowed Marissa to keep ruining herself.
As for me, I still live in my $7.27 million house. But I don't think about its value anymore. I think about what it represents. Years of work. My parents' faith in me. My own independence. And the lesson my grandmother left behind. Family is supposed to be where you feel safe.
But being related to someone doesn't give them ownership of your life.
You can love someone and still say no. You can forgive someone and still keep your boundaries. And you can walk away from people who only love you when you're useful to them. For a long time, I thought silence meant losing. I was wrong. Sometimes silence means you're collecting the truth.
Sometimes one photograph is more powerful than 1,000 explanations.
And sometimes the most merciless revenge isn't destroying the person who hurt you. It's letting the truth stand in the light. And letting everyone decide for themselves who that person really is.
If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, remember this. You don't owe access to anyone just because they share your blood. And if someone tells your family a story designed to make you look like the villain, don't panic.
Don't beg. Don't scream. Don't chase every lie. Find the truth. Keep your dignity.
And when the moment comes,
let the evidence speak. Because the loudest person in the room isn't always telling the truth.
Sometimes the quietest person is simply waiting for the right photograph.
And when that photograph finally drops, everybody sees everything.
If this story touched something inside you, subscribe, because the next story may remind you of someone in your own family. And if you believe family should never be an excuse for betrayal, leave a comment.
Truth always comes out.